Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Iconic IC Framework. I'm Jeneba Wint. I'm going to be taking you through this. I'm your resident icon for the evening. I'm going to be talking to you about this framework. A little about me. I have been in tech industry for about 11 years, 9 in UX. By day UX, but in my own time, I am a self-mastery coach and self-advocacy educator. That means that I empower Black women and BIPOC individuals to unlock their full career potential and achieve career success. I got into this work because I was tired of witnessing underestimation and undervaluing, seeing countless talented individuals undervaluing themselves and underestimating themselves. And so I started helping underrepresented individuals unlock their zone of genius. I am a leader in digital transformation, a futurist and systems thinker. Again, I'm super passionate about self-leadership and self-mastery. Love all things zone of genius, and I'm a zone of genius facilitator, passionate about career growth, and I am a valued thought partner. So I want us to, before we get into the exercise, just start thinking about what we think an iconic IC is. What are some things that might come to mind? What are some adjectives and descriptors that come to mind when we think about iconic ICs? And I came up with this little persona board. We're not going to go through a full persona exercise. I know everyone knows what that is here and been through it several times, but I wanted to just get some thoughts and ideas about what attributes and descriptors come to mind when we think about embodying an iconic IC persona. And I can take a few notes. I'm sure it'll be in the chat. If you put it in the chat, that would be awesome. Or if anybody wants to come off mute and share what kind of adjectives they think of when they think about someone that is a iconic IC.
There's some adjectives coming up in the chat. I'll read them out. Self-leading, self-advocating,
Perfect.
avid learner. Amy says, take no shit. Driven, bold, influencer across teams, confident, thought leadership, aspirational, tactical, assertive.
Awesome, awesome. Okay, so what we're gonna do is later on in the workshop, I have another slide that's already filled out like this. So what we're gonna do is map what we thought to what it is in reality later on. So we have those in the chat. I wrote down some, take a mental picture. We'll come back to it. Now let's get into my IC career path. So I started out in UX and technical writing, and my IC career path is definitely not intentional. I don't want to come off as I knew this starting out 11, 10 years ago, but I actually started with a Google search because I graduated from grad school just coming off of the recession back in what year was that? 2006, 2007. And so there really were not a lot of opportunities. I didn't even know what UX was. Um, Economy was terrible, all the things. So I just took to Google and I was like, what can I do with this poli-sci undergrad? What can I do with this city and regional planning or urban planning grad degree? And Google told me technical writing was one of the jobs that I would be good at. So I was like, okay, I'm taking your word for it. I'm a technical writer now. So I just embrace the beginner mindset there and just started learning everything there was to learn about technical writing. I was taking whatever courses I could find. This is like not this cute Google that we have now with AI and all the things. This is like older Google. So there the search results weren't as robust, I would say, as they are now. So whatever I had available to me, that's what I did. I looked up courses, organizations. I started going to different meetings in the city I was living in. I joined the professional organization. I was just doing all the things to try to be a sponge and soak up as much as I could. And so early on, I embraced one of the top things about or attributes about being an IC, which was self-leadership, because there was nobody to lead me. Like, you got to lead yourself. No one's coming to save you. So during that technical writing career at one of the or jobs, one of the trainings that I was taking was a training on how to build XML templates in Word. Again, this is a while ago. There wasn't really like all the CMS tools and stuff that we have now. So in that training, while I was doing a technical writing contract, the instructor started teaching us about content modeling and information architecture and all things that I had never heard of. So I again started learning that stuff, started researching it, um started Googling, going and talking to people who I thought maybe would know about that, talking to other technical writers to kind of get a gauge on what was going on in the industry. And some somewhere along the line, someone told me about content strategy and how that was similar to what I was talking about. And I ended up finding out that content strategy was like a new emerging thing, and it was becoming a big industry thing, and not just in UX, but just in the job market, period. So I stayed curious. I continued learning about content strategy. Eventually got laid off from that technical writing job, and I was like, okay, I'm a content strategist now. I did a little bit of it. I got a baby portfolio with maybe two samples at best. I'm a content strategist. Okay. I'm branding myself as a content strategist. So started doing that, got another contract with Aquient, and started working on content strategy for Wells Fargo at the time. And what I realized with content strategy is many people were just focused on one aspect of content strategy, whereas I was trying to find my sweet spot in content strategy, which was more on the systems thinking, systems design, um, information architecture, content structure, content modeling side, because that's what I had came from. So I already knew I had some sort of competency in those areas. So I began to specialize, niche down, and started going after projects that were more focused on those things, special projects, innovative projects, um, new opportunities for work. And that led me into content ops and content design, because the company that I was working for at the time, they had a need for process design. They had a need for helping design teams with efficiency and impact and effectiveness. So I prioritize impact and value. What's the space where I could add the most value and make the most impact? And that's kind of been a driving factor in my career, not just working on um, pet projects, or not just working on making the things look pretty or sound good, or read well, working on things that actually have an impact and and an impact on the company outcomes, and also add value to my team, manager, company, etc. So I moved into documentation strategy, which was my latest role. and that was on a design system team. And documentation strategy for me was just a combination of all the work that I had done previously. So I focused on skill stacking. Another key, I think I made up that word if I've not trademarked, copywritten or anything, but I'm saying I think I made up that word, skill stacking, which is just what it sounds like, stacking your skills every opportunity you have, every role you have, looking at what it is that you're doing that's adding value, that's making impact, skills that you're really mastering, that you have a deep interest in, and just combining as you go along and combining it into like a body of work. And so I like to say like I'm stacking skills like they're infinity stones. Shout out to my Marvel people, you know what that means, like Thanos. Um, and then I arrived at my current role, which is working on service design and experience strategy, still within the design system team. So I'm kind of working both roles, documentation and service design. And again, these roles are just a combination of everything that I've done since I've been in UX. And I'm focused on mastering my craft instead of vanity promotions or titles or I think when you focus on mastering your craft, the career path will appear, like it will make room for you. I want to know who in here has heard of these roles or knew that there are so many niche roles or disciplines or domains within UX. If you are familiar, could you put a one in the chat? I can't see the chat, by the way. Can you put a one in the chat? And if you are not familiar, can you put a three in the chat? And then let's see who we have in the audience. And
Oh, the threes are coming in. I would say like about it's almost 50-50, but there are some people who did not know.
yeah, I just want to speak to the importance of niching down, and we'll get into this as we go on, but um, as you go in your career and you grow in your career, I think this becomes more and more important as opposed to being a generalist, especially if you're going to be a sought after IC, because with ICs, we need to stand out. We need to make sure we're adding value. We need to make sure we're adding, contributing on an impact full level because we're not people leading. We don't have this huge team. We're actually influencing by the work that we're doing, the connections we're making, the partnerships we're making, the people we're helping, um, on the other side, the customers that we're helping. So it's super important to think about niching down and mastering different domains as you go along. All right, the life of an IC. This is kind of like my report on the state of ICs in 2024 and some of the benefits of being an IC. So, increased autonomy and focus. For me, options are huge in what I work on, and being and having the autonomy to define my role, my areas of focus. Without the management responsibilities, you get to do this. You get to zero in on your craft and think about the things that you're doing from a creativity and innovation perspective. Flexible career progression. I don't really know if we're still on T-shape. The other day I was listening to a podcast. I think they said like W shape or V shape, but whatever. Um, when you are on the career path of an IC, it allows you to have the T-shaped skills, which is the broad and wide. I don't know who has seen the graphic, but it's a T where it's broad and wide, up and down. There's a ton of skills that you could possess and master as someone in UX. So it definitely allows for that. It allows you to make strategic partnerships and then pursue different types of domains that we saw on the previous slide to 10x your career options as a whole. So you have more options to choose from the more domains or technical skills, or not even technical skills only, but soft skills as well that you've mastered. Um, you have diversity in projects, such as working on emerging technologies, AR, VR, AI. That's so many like acronyms. AR, VR, AI, all of the emerging things you would be most likely privy to work on because you don't have the people leadership responsibilities and expectations. Um, it gives you that diversity to grow and learn faster. And then a big one is the recognition and the impact. I think based off my experience working as a people leader once in my career and then mostly working as an IC, I got the most recognition and impact working as an IC. I was able to correlate the direct connection between the work I was doing and the impact that I was making a lot easier and a lot more seamlessly. And I was able to tell that story a lot more than when I was when I was a people leader, having to focus on not just myself, but my team and what they were doing. Specialization. So this is kind of what we just talked about, is curating that niche and allowing for numerous pathways in your career growth. Being an IC, life of an IC, you get to deepen your expertise in way more areas. So that could be UX research, interaction design, UX writing, information architecture. There's just so many areas to go into within UX that you could choose to specialize in. Career satisfaction. I have personally had more career satisfaction as an IC. For me, the iconic feeling is bringing my work to reality, um, seeing the impact, leading end-to-end projects or work. So I definitely feel as though it's more career satisfaction for me personally. And then being able to measure your own success and being able to own your growth and
Okay.
your goals. Oh, I think someone's not on mute. Being able to own your success and being able to set your own measurable goals. I think there's so much freedom in that, being able to personalize your goals, your career vision, and where you want to go and how you want to progress. So how do you redefine success as an IC? How do you set up your own success metrics? So I do this through these three areas of focus. The first one would be setting quantifiable goals for myself. So I would encourage you to identify 3 to 5 key areas where you know that you can make the highest level of impact for users or for the business. If your users are internal, external, doesn't matter. And then also highest level of impact on your team. Like something that I know that I easily can do and see impact is improving onboarding processes. And I typically do that like at every job. I'm good at process design, so it's an easy win for me and a win that I can get quickly whenever I go somewhere because people's companies onboarding processes tend to not be that great or that flushed out. So that's something that is an easy way to make impact on your team. So again, setting those 3 to 5 key areas where you can make impact, and then tying some success metrics to those goals. Like what are you actually going to do? Like what is a KPI, a key performance indicator of success for that goal that showcases your unique contributions? Um, Personal metrics, I think, are super important, not just waiting for your manager to give you the uh, success metrics or KPIs for the year, but really creating your own personal metrics that align with your values, your career aspirations, I think are super, super important for redefining your successes that I see. And then mixing personal and professional goals. Like a lot of what we talked about are goals that are impactful to the company, but also you want to think about goals that are impactful to you personally. So that could be mastering a new domain, that could be speaking at an industry event, that could be contributing a blog article to some industry medium account. But mixing the professional and the personal goals are definitely key for someone who is an IC trying to grow in their career. So then you want to seek horizontal growth opportunities. These are stretch assignments, for example, leading cross-functional projects and programs or special innovative activities or projects, taking on responsibilities that compound in value. So that could be, I'll go with the example of the onboarding process. That would be maybe having a lunch and learn or a meet and meet with other teams within your organization that you can share and teach that onboarding process to as well. That way, you have other people across the company, other stakeholders that are seeing the value that you're adding, feeling the impact that you're adding. So you get that win-win cross-functionally, not just on your team. I consider that compounded value. And then lastly, here, you definitely need to be documenting your career journey. Um, can if you have a career journal, a wins folder, a brag book, a brag file. I recently saw somebody calling it a baddie book, and I love that. Um, if you have that, can you let me know in the chat if you regularly document um your career within some sort of journal. Uh, oh, Havana, are you waiting for those?
Uh, L says they do in a spreadsheet. They another person, Daisy, says that they have a career diary in Figma.
Nice.
Keisha has a document. She calls it her all-star file.
I love that.
A good old compositional notebook. Ooh, screenshotting any kudos for the
Yes,
clicks and stuff.
I do the screenshotting, the kudos as
Mhm.
well. I love that. I screenshot everything at work, but
Yes.
documentation is key. It's documentation is everything.
Mhm.
But the career journal and the process of going through that, it helps you to reflect on what's working, what's not working. Maybe you were aligned to something when you started the role, you're no longer aligned. Maybe you didn't even realize, but your manager has a history of doing certain things that could be toxic and you didn't notice it. But since you're documenting that stuff in the journal, screenshotting, you now have a record of that. You'll document lessons learned, skill development. I like to also document here wins that nobody else sees, or ways that I can clap for myself that nobody else will ever know about. I think this is important for like boosting yourself during any sort of burnout or like rage applying or anything like that, because you have that to then go back and look at and just say like, no, or if you have imposter syndrome one day, no, like I know what I'm doing. I am I'm an icon. I'm good at this. I know what I'm doing. So I think it's super important. Creating your own self-assessment tool. I like to use a journal for that as well, for self-awareness purposes, so I can know um things about myself that I maybe need to improve, or things about my not only like wins or things that I have achieved, but really assessing myself beyond just like basic performance, and not waiting on my manager to give me sometimes annual, sometimes quarterly, the long form assessment that you get at work, but getting in a regular habit of assessing yourself as you go along, and then using that to guide your future career decisions. And then cultivating your sphere of influence. This is so important for an IC, especially if we want to be an iconic IC, which all of us here do, obviously. So you want to actively make sure that you're sponsoring or mentoring or coaching others as a way to not only increase your sphere of influence, but as a way to give back and impact at scale other people. I know we have ADP on the call, but and a few people said that they're mentors there. But that's also things to add to your brag book when you have helped someone in their career or on their career journey, or impacted somebody in that way. And then another way of building your sphere of influence is developing those cross functional partnerships with other people. But most importantly, when um, working cross functionally, leading cross functionally, influencing cross functionally, is tracking the adoption of your work and ideas. I think sometimes this is forgotten about. But this is key because it's one thing to like give somebody an idea, but we all know implementation is everything. Or it's all good to like show somebody some great design, but I think the magic is in the implementation and also the documentation. All right, executive IC presence. I feel like the IC career ladder can sometimes be invisible, aka non-existent, where you are having to create your own ladder, or you're just climbing this. If you're not intentional, you're just on this ladder that's invisible. And you're expected to build influence and credibility and thought leadership. So how do you do that? Of course, communicating with confidence. Developing influential communication skills is super important. And I think as women, one of my favorite things that I've seen on LinkedIn is those memes or posts where it talks about how many times we as women say, like, I'm sorry, when it's like not an apology situation. You're just like, you talked and somebody else talking, you're like, I'm sorry. So I think we could pay attention to things like that, things that diminish our credibility when we communicate, or things that make us not seem as influential. One that I've seen recently is when you present something, you present an idea, or you present a framework or something, a process, something that you created, and you say like, "Does that make sense?" So instead of saying, "Does that make sense?" you can just say, "All right, I'm opening the floor for questions," or "How does that feel to you?" Or I forgot one of the other good ones that I've seen. But essentially, establishing yourself once you have presented something in a more meaningful and influential way. And then simplify your communication. I know a lot of times people think over communicating is more influential, but it's really in simplification and learning to distill any topic or any technique into the most simplest way or engaging narrative. building your brand as a thought leader. I think this one is probably my favorite tip or of the entire workshop, which is just building your brand, period. I think enough cannot be said about the importance of having a brand as opposed to um borrowing a brand. And when I say borrowing a brand, I mean like, hey, my name is Jeneba. I work at Meta. I've previously worked at Google. I previously worked at Airbnb, as opposed to hi, my name is Jeneba. I have 9 years of experience in UX. I specialize in information architecture and documentation strategy. So I think it's key to building your brand. It's key to executive presence, and it's key to building an impactful and iconic IC career. And just some quick ways that I started with building my brand is writing articles, writing blogs, writing on LinkedIn regularly, not just like when you're looking for a job or when you're saying like, "Hey, I'm open for work." Um, writing regularly in your particular field or your particular domain, connecting with other thought leaders, commenting if you're not quite ready to write your own posts. Another quick way is commenting valuable insights on other people in the industry's posts. That's a really quick way to contribute value early on. Speaking at conferences, speaking on podcasts and live events, and then, of course, creating opportunities in your company where you can share your expertise, or you can share best practices. That could be hackathon, community of practice, lunch and learn, standing up your own community of practice or lunch and learn. I've done both. I've done a newsletter that I sent out to our department where we talked about things that our team was doing. We shared articles, we shared insights, we shared things that we were doing that were impactful, what we had coming up. We spotlight people on our team. So we spotlighted other events that we were having, so that's another way to build within your company. And then becoming a strategic partner, becoming that person that's key decision makers will go to for the next idea, for the next innovation, um, and be ready to present your perspective to those key decision makers. Not shying away from sharing your ideas, and as opposed to ideas from others are cool too, but if we want to be um iconic ICs, we've got to present our perspectives regularly, and always aiming to make business impact. I think this is super important, especially as an IC, to aim to qualify and quantify the things that you're doing. Make sure that everything you're doing is like, I'm gonna call it busy work for lack of a better term, but making sure that you're not just doing busy work, pushing pixels, making things look nice, but actually driving that impact and having your work tied to solutions um, for the company. And then driving implementation, and that kind of goes back to something I was saying earlier, is not just having the idea, but also being able to help or lead the implementation and tactical improvements. Um, Next, you want to curate your own leadership style. And I think how corporate is set up and how a lot of us have been taught is, well, my manager leads like this. That's either good or bad. I'm just going to kind of borrow that and see if it works for me, as opposed to curating your own leadership style and what's going to work for you to lead projects, to influence people, to be a change champion, inspire others, and then, of course, build your legacy in your career. So I'm gonna go through these, but I'm gonna just stop and highlight the ones that are what I feel is a trifecta for IC leadership qualities. So we have servant leadership, adaptive leadership, democratic leadership, empathetic leadership, coaching leadership, thought leadership, inspirational leadership, and collaborative leadership. Um, of course, these are all good qualities and good leadership styles, but servant leadership is one that stands out for ICs. And servant leadership, if you're not aware, servant leadership is really driven by empathy, really driven by seeing others do well, promoting others, getting others into the room when you're presenting ideas and perspectives. It's prioritizing the needs of your teammates and the organization as a whole. Um, it's kind of just dedicated to the well-being of the team. And I would say that's the one. That's number one in the trifecta for creating your leadership style as an IC. Thought leadership. Thought leadership is big. That is bringing the innovative ideas, innovative perspectives. Um, that's someone that embodies that will always be doing knowledge sharing collaboratively. Um, they're always going to be the one that's sharing those articles, industry articles, and bringing that to the forefront of the team to see if that could be implemented within the team. And then coaching leadership. This one is the one that I researched that has the most effect on ICs for leadership. Um, coaching is focused on, and that's because coaching is focused on developing others. So as a IC, it's bringing people along. Um, as it says, coaching leadership, you're going to be guiding, you're going to be giving feedback, you're going to be giving tons of guidance on how to do things and other people's work. So I highlighted coaching leadership as one to take away for your IC leadership toolkit. I want to know who has heard of all these leadership styles and who knew there were so many diverse leadership styles.
A few people in the chat said that they did not know.
Okay, I feel I first was introduced to this sort of leadership wheel just because I was one of my best manager that I've ever had was she was a fan of the servant leadership style, and she said that everywhere she went, and when she onboarded she always said that, and so I kind of looked into it and researched, and luckily that does align with me, but I didn't want to just take the things that she embodied or what she thought was successful as a leadership style to take it into account for me because it may have worked, it might not have worked. And so I think it's important to curate your own leadership style and try out different things and what is going to work for you, especially as a non-people leader. Deploying these leadership styles to people that don't report to you when you're doing cross-functional work. Okay, I snuck this slide in because I had to. I was preparing for this and I just snuck this in today. Nielsen Norman, I saw some article where they have a leadership superpower quiz. So I was like, let's put this in here. It's perfect. So if you could just get your phone out, scan this QR code, um, and you don't have to take it now because it's kind of too long for that. But I just wanted to share with you so that you could take yours and understand your leadership style a little bit more based on a personality research-based quiz when you're curating your own leadership style later on. I think this would be helpful to have handy. It told me that my leadership style, my leadership superpower was the interpreter. And the interpreter is um, basically somebody who builds bridges, who connects with people by building bridges. And I thought that that was perfect and so fitting for me. Actually, I was like really impressed with the quiz because sometimes these quizzes are totally wrong, but I was super impressed with it. And the accuracy of it. It spoke a lot about my ability to use language and convey things to others and convince people of things through language and conversation. So um, take that later in your spare time. Okay. Um, creating your IC career path. So when creating your IC career path, the first thing you need to do is be flexible with the plan because it's a journey, it's a marathon, it's not a sprint. And you want to be flexible in the things that you're doing, the things that you're interested in as the industry shifts. It's super important to be doing those self check-ins, not just when your manager is checking in with you, and curating your own roadmap for your career. Um, Next, you want to have a personal vision statement for your career. Have a brand statement for your career. This is super helpful in just understanding where you want to go, understanding when things don't align with you and why. It's a really big a tool for figuring out your why. Sometimes when you may get lost navigating your career, you may have forgotten, you may have lost interest. um, these things happen. So you want to identify key skills and areas of expertise that you want to cultivate. So you're going to research emerging UX trends, high demand skills, and I recommend focusing on 2 to 3 new domains per year. I've found that many people stagnate because they don't focus on new skills and new areas of opportunities. And just kind of diversifying their skill set and interest. So you want to make sure you're always curious about that. And then you want to develop your own personalized roadmap. I don't think I was ever helped in this area from a previous manager. So it was always up to me to own my own career development path, roadmap, whatever have you. I think, again, no one's coming to save you. It's more important to do it for yourself. So, creating your personal roadmap is ideal for career growth and continuous learning and development. You want to outline quarterly goals, both personal and professional, for your skill development, impact opportunities, and career advancement, and preferably in your career documentation tool that you're already going to be reviewing regularly. Okay, so back to our iconic IC persona. I think you all are ahead of the curve based on doing this before. A lot of what was said in our previous exercise is on here. And looking at the notes that I took down, there's even some more that we can add here. But the iconic IC persona, she's an icon. She's courageous, curious, a trailblazer, audacious, a storyteller, a keen observer, a knowledge sharer, skill facilitator, resilient, passionate advocate, authentic leader, mentor, and influential. I actually asked Chat GPT to give me or it wasn't Chat GPT. I think it was Bard, whatever. I asked generative AI to help me get some of the top attributes or adjectives for someone who is a lead IC, principal level IC, and these are some of the ones that it gave me. So you guys are spot on, and that's awesome. Okay. Who here has gotten some new frameworks, some new insights, inspiration from this presentation? If you could just let me know in the chat how you feel about the frameworks that were given today.
Thank you so much. Did you want to open up for,
Yeah, I would, if you guys can get your phone out one more time, take a picture of this,
perfect.
or you can go to talk.ac/Jeneba Wint. You're gonna use the code ICONIC. Your feedback will be super helpful for me as I continue to refine the frameworks and the presentation that I shared today and make it better for the future. So your feedback is very much appreciated. I have one more goodie here. I think maybe Havana, I can send this particular slide, but this is for all of you all to be able to make your own persona template. So going through your vision statement, passion, interests, goals, signature skills, wins, unique leadership style. And this is something you can just add to your brag book or your brag file. So I'll make sure to figure out how we're gonna send that and coordinate that. Thank you. You're all icons. Thank you for attending this evening. I'm empowering you all to step into your icon era and audaciously build your IC career.
And everyone, if you could take a moment to take yourself off mute and give a round of applause. Thank you, Jeneba.
Woo, thank you.
Jeneba, do you want to open up for a Q&A a little bit?
Yeah, let's do it.
Awesome. All right. I did catch a couple, at least one question from the chat. But if you want to ask a question, feel free to click on raise hand. Oh, Zainab, can you go back to the other slide so I can screenshot the QR code? Is that what you're talking about, Zainab? Oh, this one? Oh, okay. Perfect.
Okay.
All right. Does anyone have any questions for Jeneba? Feel free to raise your hand. I will ask one that I saw in the chat earlier. It came from Nia, one of our organizers, and she asked, can you give an example of skill stacking? Like be more specific about that?
Yeah, so skill stacking for me has been if I'm working, let's say as a content strategist, if I'm working as a content strategist on a UX team, a product team, and we have our projects that we're working on, I will try to learn as many new skills in that project while doing those activities as I can, or find out from doing that project, which skill gaps do I have where I can learn a new skill or master a new skill. So for example, I may have never worked with information architecture. This is just an example. And usually the designer does that on the team. Usually the UX designer does that on the team. Well, I would raise my hand to take that over so that I can learn how to do it, or I can learn what all goes into information architecture when you're designing and structuring a screen or in your wireframe, whatever. So that's an example of what I consider skill stacking. It's trying to maximize on learning the most amount of skills you have while you're at a particular job or on a particular project that you can take with you once you leave that job because you mastered it. So that's skill stacking. And also looking for skill opportunities that are outside of your job description or daily responsibilities. within your team or on the projects you're on, and then volunteering to do those or raising your hand to do those.
Thank you. I see we have a question from Deja Charisse. Go ahead. Hey, Deja, you're on mute if you're trying to talk. All right. Going once, going twice. Maybe she hit the raise hand icon. I have a question. And again, if people have questions, go ahead and hit the raise hand. It's under the reactions at the bottom. My question is, metrics are sometimes like the hardest part of all this. I think in one of the slides you mentioned, having those performance metrics to show your success. Sometimes sometimes there's things out of our control, like projects that get paused or the budget gets cut. It never goes to production, or maybe it stays stuck in the phase, not by any fault of our own, but just business, right? Or there it could be qualitative, right? Like maybe you worked on a design system and you made the design more visually cohesive than it was before. But there's like, how do you tie that to like a metric that would resonate with business and leadership?
Yeah, so I think one of the tips that I borrowed from a former colleague is who happened to be a project manager. So it's a good thing because they typically tend to keep track of all these things. If you can align with a project manager, it'll be great for you. She would send out an email after every project completion, requesting, she would give prompts and then she would request detailed feedback. So after every project, after every launch, after every deployment, whatever, she would do that. And I think that was helpful for me in getting some metrics that I probably missed or didn't think of or kind of glossed over, because it's kind of real-time feedback from other people. She sent it out to all the people that were on the project or all the people who the project touched, customers, consumers, stakeholders, even VP level executive leader, not executives, but higher level decision makers, she would send it out to, and she would get tons of feedback, both qualitative and quantitative, and she would like kind of cultivate all those things, add them to her brag book, her wins sheet or whatever, and then she would have those. So that's one way that I know to get metrics. But um when the project kind of does never sees a light of day, I usually lead with the metrics that we were going to measure. And I know this might be like
Mm.
sensitive for some people, but it's worked for me. Um, I've led with the what would have happened if it was to complete. So I took it like a more positive spin where I'm like, it didn't complete, but here's what we would have accomplished. Here's the needle, how we would have moved the needle if the project was completed. So I kind of just, I guess, reverse engineer that. It didn't complete, no fault of my own, but here's how my contribution would have made an impact. And then here's how the project overall would have made its impact.
I like that. Thank you. Deja has a question. Deja, you said your mic is working now.
Yes, can you hear me?
It's a little crackly, but go ahead and ask your question.
Okay, thank you, Jeneba, for your talk. My question today is, if you're working with someone who considers themselves to be multi-talented or multi-interested or having kind of not necessarily a generalist, but just different avenues of interest, and they're looking to kind of present themselves to the world in a more collective way, how do you guide people when they're filling out these templates to start to trim that down or to combine these different ideas and goals? Like, how do you help people to get more targeted?
I kind of missed some, but let me just restate and then we can see. So you're working with somebody who is multi-talented, multi-hyphenate. They have lots of goals, different things that they're skilled in, but it seems all over the place. They're trying to brand themselves. How do you get them to be more targeted? I think that's it.
Yes.
Okay. I think you have to be known for something first, one thing first. I think once you have mastered the thing, then you can it's easier for people to see you in other lights as well, or it's easier for people to accept. Like, she killed it over here. Okay, likelihood she might kill it over here is high. So I think you have to have like that proven track record of the one thing first and delivering results on the one thing, delivering actual, I hate to say delivering deliverables, but delivering deliverables on just that first thing that you are good at or that you think like this is the one. And then after that, you have maybe some testimonials, you have some feedback, you have you've screenshotted people saying whatever about the thing. Then you can go ahead and pivot into those other things that you want to do, that you're interested in or that you're also good at.
Thank you.
Thanks for your question, Deja. In the chat, we've got a couple more questions. Could you explain more about how you can help design the company's onboarding process when you enter it as an individual contributor, I'm assuming?
Yes, you reverse engineer everything that you hate. You document that, you screenshot that first. Then once you go through all the hiccups, all the stuff that's like, it took like 5 days for me to log into this computer. When I finally logged into the computer, I had no idea what I'm supposed to be doing or who am I supposed to be contacting. The manager has no like 90-day plan for me, 30, 60, 90, nothing, just kind of free for all, right? So you're gonna document all that stuff, and then those are your first points of improvement in building your own onboarding plan or roadmap. And just to give like a real world example, so I actually did this, and then I made a Trello board of how the onboarding process should be. I put all my suggested improvements, recommendations, ideas in there. And then I just said, like, here to my manager, like, we should start using this because I don't see one around here that we're supposed to be using for onboarding people. And they started using it. I refined it as we went. We hired more people. I refine it. I get it better. And we actually went from like 5, 6 months of chaotic, stressful onboarding to 30 days.
That's pretty impressive. Thank you for that. I see a question from Siobhan Walls in the chat. What approach do you find most effective when it comes to gathering user feedback and integrating it into the design process?
I recently went through this at work, and my team loves like just continuous testing, and I'm not against continuous testing, but at some point I feel with like mock-ups or just kind of not prototypes, not working prototypes. I feel like the best way to get tangible user feedback, and then it's something that you can integrate into your own process or the product, is having usable things to test with people, things that they can actually click on, go through as close to what is real as possible, because I find that people can't really like distinguish or jump between the two. Um, and so when you're showing them something that's like not really real, I don't feel like it resonates, just my experience. And so
Mm.
having that real workable thing to test with, and then not being afraid of doing like in the room, or if you're virtual sessions where you're recording them using, I know that's against some companies' policies, but if it is available, actually recording them using it. Not doing non-moderated and moderated testing, so you can see the difference in how they're interacting and using the product.
Excellent. We have time for one more. Oh, Daisy, ending us strong. Daisy Swain in the chat says, do you personally have a tried and tested system to be able to work on your career goals, like business and personal, along your day-to-day in IC work?
Yes. Daisy, let's connect on LinkedIn, and then I can take you through that and we can set up some time.
Perfect. All right. Take yourself off of mute. Let's give one more round of applause to Jeneba. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody.
That was great. Way to kick off the new year for all of us. We appreciate it. And everyone, Jeneba, do you want to go back to your last slide in case people want
The
to connect?
feedback. Yeah, let's go to the. So when you go here, it's gonna have the connection over in this link that it takes you to. So it has
Okay.
my LinkedIn, Instagram,
Awesome.
email.
Perfect. Yes, feel free to connect with Jeneba and connect with the people that you met today. Thank you so much for being part of the first meetup. As a reminder, our next meetup is also virtual, and we have a product design manager from Meta talking about how to get a career sponsor. And that will be February 15th. Our events are usually on the third Thursday of each month. Another exciting event for those of you who are like, where's the in-person one? Our first in-person event will be in March, and that's going to be a Figma variant masterclass. So hope to see you there as well. Thank you all. Enjoy the rest of your night. Stay warm out there and have a great rest of the month.
Thanks, everybody. Let's connect on LinkedIn.
Yes. Jeneba, go ahead. Jeneba and organizers, stay online, and everyone else, you are free to go. I'll stop the recording as well.